Hello and good morning. We are out here sweeping. Doing a little bit of prep work and a little back patio for some somatic exercises. And I was listening to some good old Neville Goddard this morning because a lot of the psychology and philosophies that I follow are in alignment with the awakening, with living in peace, with living your most authentic self. And well, I'm very neurodivergent, and it has taken me a long time to sort of recognize and accept. I had a conversation with a friend of mine that I am both the golden child and the black sheep of the family, and let me tell you how freaking confusing that kind of, I'm going to say role play for fun, because I am also a huge nerd. That's something you should know about me. So I'm talking to the collective consciousness out here, and some people transmute via tarot cards, and I transmute via somatics through body movements. And I have been so disconnected from my body for such a freaking long time, and for lots of reasons, a lot of them having to do with the abuse of men. Like, I was trying to figure out a different way to say it, but I'm not going to hold that against every man. However, I have really healthy boundaries now, and I am definitely finding that fewer and fewer people meet my requirements to become close to me anymore. And it's been a very painful, isolating process, but it's also part of the path of a psychic empath. Hello, my name is Kat. I am a psychic empath, and I have struggled for so long to say that, to acknowledge it about myself. I believe that I am clairsentient. I feel things. And claircognizant. I know things. I've known things from that young age that you weren't supposed to know, and that kind of made me a truth speaker. But we live in a world of lies and manipulation, and it's just that simple. And that is truth speaking. That is not some kind of jaded perspective, like social media these days is being used to manipulate people. It's being used to lie to them. Like AI is releasing hundreds and hundreds of research papers to back up its own beliefs, but beliefs is not the right word in this case, programming. And I have started to correlate a lot of things and seeing it as the programming put into our psyches that we need to get rid of. We need to get rid of that, and it's not easy. It's literally the definition of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's the definition of, doing the work to deprogram. So here we are, doing the work. And little restful moon aromatherapy for me. It also has patchouli, so it sometimes help with bugs. I did discover a nice ant pile in one of my welcome to the South fire ants, and clearing my space. It is the 1st of July. Happy July. Capricorn moon was a couple days ago, so here we are grounding. Got some little bit of cinnamon spray, and I want to turn this space into a healing retreat. I am going to draw in wealth and abundance with that, but I know that my heart and soul are aligned. I am not some kind of snake oil salesman. If you don't want it, I'm not going to try to convince you that you need it. If my words resonate with you, I am channeling and speaking to a very particular collective consciousness for you. Some wealth and abundance for you too, because I do want to live in a space that all of those things should be shared much more equally. I made a joke to one of my friends about, the matriarchy and the definition of that. And yeah, I want to be midwifing that. I am the feral aunt living out in the woods wildly by myself. Birth that new world, you know, like let's do the healing, but it's a balance of feminine and masculine energy. And let me tell you how little genitals have to do with any of that. So if they're programming you to be like genitals, not, you know, plastic is an endocrine disruptor. People are not developing properly because of the hormones that we put in food and the plastic that is literally like in this planet. And right now there's a shift to try to change EPA regulation. They want to bring back things like DDT that they knew was going to give everybody cancer. They knew that, and yet they put it all over our food. I used to be very ignorant about, oh yeah, body, you know, movement and food can cure everything. Like, I have become educated. That's how growth works. So educate yourself, find the path that works for you. And my words may resonate for like a small time, and then they don't anymore, and that's amazing. That's called growth. You've outgrown me, just as I've outgrown other people, and that does come with mourning, and it does come a lot of times with a whole loss of identity. So this is me stepping in. I am stepping up for myself. I am stepping into my matron era, you know, as the aunt, you know, as the midwife, as, you know, my most divine feminine embodiment. But like, let's bring in that like strong masculine energy too. Let's balance that kundalini, you know, like for me, a lot of it is like chakra and energy work. And that's how it resonates, you know, and I'm just going to start drawing it in right now. Because this, like I said, this is, I think, my form of channeling, and I haven't seen anything like it, so it's weird, and it's new to me, so have happy exploring with me. There's definitely going to be some awkward moments, you know, and I'm just focusing on kind of clearing that aura, pushing any negative thoughts out of my consciousness, and bringing in that good earth energy. I built myself like a nice pallet deck out here, because this is the swamps of Louisiana. And I invite you to come and share this sacred space I have created with me. I'm still working out logistics. There's still a lot of conversations that need to happen. So, you know, maybe we just meet over at the Bogachitta and go hiking, you know, until I can get some of the proper legal things done, which has not been an easy thing for me. Excuse me, I hope you did not hear that, or I can edit it out. I'm a little congested. I slept outside and it is humid today. I think we're finally about to get some much needed rain. It rained so long, so mosquitoes got crazy. And just opening up those shoulders, opening up that heart space. I'm going to do some neck rolls, just nice and gentle and slow. Waking up the body this beautiful morning. The sun is slowly coming up through the trees. Kind of wish I had moved the fan over. I might do that if it gets crazy. Deep breaths. This is getting back into our bodies. We want to bring that consciousness into the present moment. I have another video I'm going to post today about sleeping outside and waking up yesterday underneath the Capricorn full moon. And this is me doing it scared. I am nervous about putting myself out there like this, but we're going to do it anyway. I mean, there's not many things that I fear at this point in time. Like, I fear my loss of autonomy, but I can fight that. I can fight that. It's all right. I do have strong opinions about the loss of autonomy of people being wrongfully incarcerated in this country, and I do want to also speak out against these things about the wrongness being done to other humans. In the name of what? In the name of what? Why are we doing this to other people? Why does the color of anyone's skin matter? Why does their education, I mean, the education matters, but like using that to gatekeep, you know, like not everybody has access. So let's bring more access. crow pose and some squats. And if you want to try to follow along, I am not a yoga instructor. I am more of a somatic therapist, so go with the flow of your body. We're doing more of like a chakra balancing in this one, so I am not going to call out the moves that I'm doing until I'm kind of feeling it. Again, this is the awkwardness of learning. This is the learning curve, but it's okay. And deep squats are so good for that whole pelvic floor, but also the root chakra. So I like to focus in on connecting my energy down to Mother Earth, which is why I want to do more nature things, you know. And it is more difficult in the summer in the south with what's going on. So yeah, I don't have the most flexible ankles, so like my heels are up, but I think eventually they'll get there, or I might just have that bind that will never, you know, but okay, I accept my body the way it is today, and I'm going to do things to improve its flexibility for tomorrow. Movement is medicine. Food is medicine. And viewing that as what I'm putting into my body, you know, again, if education wasn't gatekept, I would be a holistic doctor, and I would love to be a holistic doctor, and I'm putting that out into the universe, you know, like, we're going to keep on the little path. I just got my bachelor's, finally at 43, I'm 46 now, and here we are, finally making videos. Well, there's a lot of videos, I just need to edit them, and it's a whole cycle of love and accepting myself. Choosing whose eyes to see myself through, and then eventually getting the perspective of it's the person that I love. I want my own best friend. I want to be my own best friend. I want to be my number one. That's what self-care is about. And then the matriarchy is about turning care into the communities around you. It's keeping things more present. And we live in this crazy, amazing world of beauty and abundance. And there's no reason why fresh water should be an issue for anyone at this point in time. You know, like, I am a hippie chick, and I will say, let's get rid of, you know, like, unnecessary pipelines is what I'm going to call them, and put in fresh water pipelines. That's what we need. You know, like, I don't think we should try to mold every inch of this earth into our design, but our imagination is what shapes our reality. And I'm trying to remember what Neville G said. I caught my attention and I was like, all right, I'm going to make the video. It's basically along the lines of do it scared. This is how you face anxiety. This is self-therapy. This is me facing my fears, putting myself out there. Even though if I can be out here alone in the woods, I think I can make an internet video. Let go of that fear and do it scared. And that's the only way to truly beat and quell anxiety, is to do it. And recently found an article talking about that it's actually, for most of us, it's not the fear of failure, it's the fear of success. Because real success is such an unknown state of being. You can go to tabletop and do some cat and cows, or stretching out that lower back. That some of us self-sabotage right at that precipice, and that's where I'm standing. I'm standing at the precipice of being ready, and I'm thinking about leaving the space that I've spent the last year and a half cultivating, and I'm going to say enchanting and sanctifying. This is my sanctuary when I need it. You know, like, there are callings. I am very much a Piscean. Leo, Piscean Sun, Leo Moon, Sagittarius Rising, water, fire, fire. I'm into this big fire energy. This is what it's about. It's about the awakening. It's about movement. See what I did there? So let's get into our bodies. Let's get our bodies moving. And even if your movements just start real small, you know, like if it just starts with neck rolls and shoulder rolls, and if you do have disabilities, my heart does go to you. In that instance, I lend you my energy. I am level 2 certified in Reiki right now, so I can do distance Reiki sessions. And, you know, I want to get set up so I can do GoPro hiking and kayaking, you know, and share those experiences as I'm channeling and intuiting. And I need some partners for these things, you know, so I'm putting that out there too. If you like editing videos and, you know, that's what you want your contributions to be to me, you know, the reciprocity, I think that's the world I'm creating around me, is reciprocity. If you have those skills that I do not have, you know, and we want to do a Reiki session in exchange. We want to talk about, you know, what little changes we can do, even if we just find, you know, like just starting with the wrists and the ankles, little rolls, you know, just to be present in your body, to start feeling, you know, connecting the fingers. There's so many things we do that are very similar to new therapy practices like EMDR. I don't know if they're new, if that's the right word. Revised practices. So most of the things that I've intuited, you know, like I would catch a glimpse of, and this is where, you know, my age is kind of both a blessing and a curse. And again, stepping into that role as the matriarchy, as the matron, as the feral aunt, big child pose. It's so good on my lower back. I got a little lordosis issues, and my lower back tends to get really bound. So wonderfully destructive. I do believe in the magic of manifesting and imagination, but I do also think because we live in this physical plane, this physical world, that we have to be proactive in achieving some of our goals. I do believe we can just ask for it, and sometimes the universe will provide. I definitely do that kind of manifesting all the time. I wanted to go tubing this past weekend. I went on Monday. You know, kind of, I'm going to say like a freaking, you know, I was more like an autistic child. Like one of my friends mentioned it, and I was like, I don't know if that's an invite, but if it is, I'm in. So let me know if you got room for one more. And it's the freaking river. Of course there's room for one more. And I was so anxious because I didn't know any of their friends. I'd only met them once, and it was just all this weird happenstance. But it worked out so brilliantly. I had such an amazing time. And that was on the Capricorn, you know? It's like, wow, talk about manifesting. I had asked a few other people if they wanted to go kayaking. I had tried to get, you know, launched into that very river. And I ended up on it anyways, you know? And that's the way it is sometimes, you know? But I still had to reach out. I had to face that anxiety of, you know, like, I'm going to call it like the kid sister energy sometimes, you know, where it's just like, hey, can I come too? And I realize that when I'm talking to people, if I'm telling you about this fun thing that I'm doing, to me that is an invite, you know. Like, I'm not just going to tell you about the fun I'm having. Like, I want you to come along with me, you know, for sure. The more the merrier, generally. If we're all there to have a good time, set that intention, you know. Like, and I have been proud of myself in certain spaces if my headspace isn't where I want it to be, you know, like I have found more peace in just silence and just being present and listening to other people speak to get out of my own head, and that has been such a blessing. you know, and I went with a bunch of teachers, and these teachers are freaking amazing people. Like, shout out to all the teachers out there. Like, that is the most noble profession. Like, I definitely am like, you know, these teachers are watching and molding the youth. Like, that's where resources should be into our youth, you know, and it shouldn't be these crazy overstuffed classrooms. And we should, as a gifted child of the 80s, yes, hello, my name is Kat. I was in the extended studies program. You know, we were put into a room and not given any instruction though in the 80s. And like every report card was like, does not meet expectations. And I am just screaming inside of my head, can somebody please tell me what the expectations are? Nobody ever told me, like, what do you expect of me? Because I don't know, because what these people are doing and what I want to do are two very different things. And then I was a tomboy of the 80s. You know, like, we played games like Smear the Queer. You know, it was very fortuitous telling. And that's a part of myself that I definitely rejected for a long time because society rejected it. Well, that's shame. Love is love, you know, and you cannot convince me, you know, like, the amount of nuclear family that I've had to say no to be like, that's not love, that's control, that's possession, you know, like, no, love is love. Who those people love has nothing to do with you. Mind your own biz, you know? Like, it's crazy. But and I love that, you know, the internet is bringing those things to light, and that more and more people are using their voice to speak out, you know, and representation matters so much, and body positivity. I know my body's not perfect. I need a social manager to read the comments for me, you know, so that we can choose who we're responding to, because I am exceedingly sensitive to that negativity. So putting that out there, this is sort of my intro video. I'm ready to build. Who wants to build things with me? We got all this power of creation surging within inside of us. Let's build things, you know, let's be present, let's be tangible. That's the joy of this world. Let's go float on the river, you know, and yeah. If you can't physically join me to float on the river, studying psychology, we're learning about dopamine and mirror neurons, and you can get dopamine and pleasure receptors and part of the experience from watching other people do it. That is the amazing power of the internet, of cameras, of the connectedness, you know. That is what is helping, like, super launch the collective consciousness and the awakening right now. And I'm not here to tell you that you need to awaken. That's not my purpose. I'm here to show you what awakening looks like. And I'm here to tell you that peace, when you have lived in the chaos that my background has had, it's so unsettling. But we're going to take a minute to just take it in. This is amazing. It's a little warm, but I'm good. I am healthy. I can sweat. I built myself a flippin' outdoor cold water shower. You know, like, I can just go hop underneath that. It is awesome. Come share this space with me. Just come share my vibe with me. Be the vibe. So yeah, in a transition state from being the empath, where I'm taking all of that in, to where I am transmuting it, I am alchemizing it, you know. We are turning that energy into flow, into magic, and then I choose to build with it, not to continue to destroy. That's the purpose. You know, what are we creating in this next life? And it's up to your imagination. But I will say, you know, like, karmic balances, that does matter. Breaking generational trauma and cycles. You know, let's talk for a moment about, you know, the nice experiments that they, same as like little baby Albert, you know, they exposed this poor child to like terror whenever they were with something white and fluffy, you know, and there's like, they did the same thing with mice and cherry blossoms. And a few generations later, the mice were naturally adverse to cherry blossoms. I do believe that that is the type of thing being done to the human race currently by the powers that be. Unfortunately, the beginning of psychology was trying to get the most productive workforce, the most productive labor force. And they found that any little change works incredibly well, you know, like changing the environment, you know, that's pretty much half of the reason the light bulb was invented. And I'm all for being productive. I absolutely do not believe any of that limiting mindset about productivity leading to, or not being productive, sorry, is the hardest stretch for me because I do a lot of massage therapy, so the parts of my arms are usually bound. So this is actually a very painful stretch, but I am determined to release that bonding in my body. And it does come with some discomfort, but I know where to push and where to pull, you know, so that's being in tune with your body. So yeah, beautiful pose. And about that back, open up the heart. One of the things that, you know, if you're in a yoga practice, somatic practice, when they say drop the shoulders, what I heard finally that made way more sense to me was bring your shoulder blades together like you're pinching a pencil on that thoracic spine. I'm gonna flip around so you can see that. See that change, you know, so instead of dropping the shoulders down because you're still forward, and for me, that's where I need to open up. So you pinch that pencil, and that really goes like activating thoracic lumbar spine, you know, so pinch that pencil, get the shoulder blades, pinch the shoulder blades, drop them. And even if that's your only focus today, you're sitting at a desk, you know, pinch those shoulder blades, feeling your body. And sometimes, you know, like close your eyes for a moment, take some deep breaths, just listen and observe the things around you. Little back massage, if you lay on your back, just nice and relaxed. You want to have good contact, you know, like you hold your knees. You don't have to be trying to force them. That is a really good stretch for that lower, but if you put your hands on your knees and just rock a little side to side, especially if you have an office job, especially if you do a lot of sitting, you know, where you're not very mobile, you know, if you have the mobility to just bring your knees as far as you can, even if it's way out here, even if it's just one at a time, you know. Start small, baby steps to big goals. You didn't start off walking, you started off crawling, and you are more capable than you think you are. We all are. We just have some bad programming we need to delete. We can go super nerdy again and be like, deleted. Hip openers, modified happy baby. Hips tapped and release, and that feels really rude. And just real gentle rocking, staying present in the body. Being present with the collective consciousness. Oh, the waterfall. Foot flexion, wrist flexion. Extension, now extension. Find my words. They're in there somewhere. One of my friends who is dealing with diabetes was asking me the best thing for leg circulation, and here it is. And again, if you're not strong enough to do this, that's okay, you know, like get your butt up against a couch or a chair, you know, and like even if you flip around in your bed and just use a good stack of pillows. Get your feet over your heart and get your feet over your knees, you know, and then just some small feet movements. to get that blood flowing. That's what we're encouraging. Blood flow helps the heart. It helps the oxygen get distributed. That oxygen, that's why breath work is so amazing. It gets us out of that lizard brain and into the thinking brain. And it's a balance. That's where we want to be. Bring that balance. It's forward fold. This is where my forward fold looks terrible in my opinion, but it's not about comparison. We got to get away from comparison and competition. Let's get into community and collaboration. That's what we're all about. Let's talk about what we're about, not what we're trying to let go of more. That's where that focus forward comes into play. That's part of the trauma healing, is to not force your body to relieve those memories. And the more inner work, shadow work that you do, the more you realize your triggers. And that's where boundaries come in. Like, hey, I'm real sensitive to X, Y, and Z. Please don't do that around me. I am really trying to eat well for my health, and I cannot tell you the number of people I have to say no to over and over and over again when they're offering me food that does not align with how I'm trying to take care of my body. And I do want a 2-pack, and I'm setting the intention right now. I am going to start gently nudging those people where I'm like, hey, no is a complete sentence. I said no once, and it's already hard enough to resist something like sugar that is almost as addictive as opioids, if you did not know. I've seen different charts on it, but some of the charts that I've seen, so there's potentially conflicting information. That's one of those research things that changes, and I think it depends on things. But I do know that sugar is addictive because you actively go through withdrawal when you stop eating it. And it does nothing positive for your body but provide you with calories. But let me tell you how much better calories that has nutrients within them are for you. I am a drinker of coconut water. I'm not going to talk about the things that I don't drink and put into my body that are man-made and manufactured. I love coconut water. I do like the extra coconut. And it didn't taste very good to me at first, but I was having some leg cramping issues after playing volleyball the other day, because July in South Louisiana, and I drank 2 whole things, two little things, I guess, not whole things. I do get the big ones too. Anyway, and I woke up feeling amazing the next day. No freaking issues whatsoever the next day. And of course, I did some stretches too. I think that night I took an Epsom salt bath, that magnesium. That magnesium is great. Epsom salt baths are one of the best self-care things that you can do. And you need to be putting about 2 cups of salt into a normal-sized bathtub. It does feel very wasteful. I wish I could get the water out somehow, but I'm not going to sit there and let it evaporate. Anyway, these are the things my brain thinks about. Oh wait, how can we reuse that? I'm not going to let that always sit there. But that is where natural springs and things are so healing. And so Epsom salt, it helps magnesium be absorbed through your body. And it was my calves that were, I have calf and feet because I have gone through a lot of barefoot shoes. So, because of those transitions I put my body through, and trying to change how I walking toe to heel, because when the barefoot shoes came out, that made sense to me. So sometimes it's about what makes sense to you. It makes sense to you and your body. you're not sure, then find an expert. I'm not an expert on these things. I'm an expert on self-therapy. I've been doing that for 17 years. I'm not by far an expert on neuroplasticity, but I've been actively performing cognitive behavioral therapy, which is also neuroplasticity on myself, changing how I show up for myself, and that allows me to show up better for this world, better for others, in alignment. It's about my alignment and how I show up. I want to show up in love when I can, because that's healing the heart wounds. And yes, almost all of us at this point in time have suffered some severe heart wounds from this world, but that's breaking the cycle. That's, teaching yourself that the smell of cherry blossoms is okay, breaking those generational cycles. Don't perform the acts of disservice that hurt you. Break the cycle. And it does take self-awareness and self-assessment, and that is the Jungian psychology of awakening and shadow work. And that is my purpose of being here. And even though it is more, I don't know if esoteric is the right word, that's what my brain does sometimes. So I said something about medicine is medicine, movement is medicine earlier, and that's okay. I'll edit things. That's what closed captions are for, and if it has a little asterisk, that means it's been edited to put in the right word. And I think that's a really good stopping point for this morning. That's what I'm feeling. So, good morning. Good morning, world. Good morning, Killa. Good morning, Auntie. Good morning, Pastor Mama. Good morning, collective consciousness. I hope you have a beautiful day. I really do. And I hope that I'm brave enough to post this video. Yay, it actually recorded, because sometimes that's a whole thing. Okay, bye. Blessed be.